Hey everyone, this is Cameron with Bitcoin4Everybody. I'm here with Bailey Jacob. He just wrote a book called Orange Pilled. It's supposed to be released in a couple months. And he is also the founder of a couple Bitcoin-oriented businesses. So Bailey, I guess let's just go ahead and get started with, talk a little bit about, what got you into Bitcoin. And yeah, how'd you go from, just falling down the rabbit hole to writing a book about it and then starting these businesses?
Yeah. So, firstly, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is great. Like you said, a bit about me. Bailey, obviously, Australian. I'm 25. My background prior to jumping into Bitcoin, have a degree in psychology. Did that for a year. Realized I hated it, and then jumped into mortgage broking. Did that for 3 years. Really enjoyed that, and then went down kind of the rabbit hole of entrepreneurship and business, and decided to take the plunge with that. And when I was 19, 20, I started a online business where I was selling film cameras, and I did that for a year, and that did really well. And then I kind of got the bug for entrepreneurship and business from there, and that really grew. A couple other businesses after that, and then I guess my orange pill story. It kind of expands a little bit further. So the first time I ever heard about Bitcoin was when I was in like year 9 or 10. This would have been 2013, 2014. But it would have just been people at school talking about it, or I had no idea what it was. I honestly didn't care about it. I didn't understand it. When you're in year 9 or 10, that's not the kind of things you worry about. I think I was too worried about chasing girls, or I don't know, going to the skate park or something. So it wasn't until a few years later, when I was 17, so in 2015, when again the conversation of Bitcoin came up, and I was with a couple of mates, and we kind of just really were interested in this idea of Bitcoin and people owning it. So we jumped online and tried to figure out, how do we even buy this thing? And then, I think I put like $50 in, bought some Bitcoin, and it was kind of, I don't know if addicting is the word, but it was a super interesting idea. Even back then, like the idea of buying a digital currency, like in 2015 for someone my age, like it just didn't exist. Like the concept of it was such a revolutionary thing at the time. I think now, being in Bitcoin for a while, you kind of become desensitized to it, but back then it was such a significant thing. And then I kind of just, from 2015 to 2017, just traded in Bitcoin and a few altcoins, and I ended up selling all of my Bitcoin that I owned in 2017. And then from then till 2020, 2021, I was just trading altcoins and dabbling in all of that. Realized that, I had some pretty bad losses in some altcoins. I also had some good wins, but I think the losses outweighed the wins. And I think there was just one day where it was just such an emotional roller coaster for years with altcoins, that I stopped enjoying it, and it stopped enjoying cryptocurrencies in general. And then that pretty much led me back to Bitcoin. I just thought, over the last 5-6 years of me being in crypto, why is it that Bitcoin has always been on the number one spot? Why hasn't it had any rug pulls? Why hasn't there been any significant scams and stuff to majority of people that owned it? And kind of dove through into how Bitcoin is not crypto. There is no CEO. It's not centralized. There's no board of executives. There's no, pre-mining or whatever it is at Bitcoin. And I guess for me, that was almost like an epiphany moment of, oh, wow, this is so much different. And no other crypto really holds a light to Bitcoin. And then I guess long story short is in 2022, it was October, I sold a investment property. And then in December 2022, I decided, if I really do believe in Bitcoin and what it says and just like the fundamentals, despite what the price is, I think at that time it was maybe 17,000, and it was fluctuating heaps over the years prior. But I decided, look, if the fundamentals make sense, the price to me doesn't matter. So I decided to put in 100% of the profits from that investment property into Bitcoin. And then, I've just held that since, which has been great. And I guess ongoing with that is where some of the Bitcoin businesses came up as well.
Awesome. So you first got into Bitcoin and you were trading it, and then you started trading other cryptos, altcoins, and got burnt with those, and then eventually led you back to Bitcoin. And now you use Bitcoin only.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. What is it that you think? Like, was it just the getting burnt by those altcoins? By the way, altcoin, for anybody listening, is just any crypto besides Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's it.
There's another name for them that rhymes with Bitcoin that people call them. I won't say it on here, but
get creative.
Yeah. Anyway. So what? So was it just you kept getting burnt by these altcoins and and you kept seeing Bitcoin, remaining at the top and being steady and steadily, trending up. Is that what, kind of got you into Bitcoin only, or did you really just fall down did you just, I don't know, explain to me what was it that got you back to Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So it's a collaboration of both. So what it was the reason I kind of went to altcoins, I guess even at the start, was I didn't understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin. To me, it was just like a digital currency. It was kind of fun. I really didn't understand the significance of it, or the like economic global impact or even societal impact that would have. To me, it was just like a fun digital currency. And that's kind of why when altcoins popped up, I was like, cool, it's another version of Bitcoin. These have fun names. They have a cool logo. This one's a dog. That's funny. Let's like buy it. But I guess what attracted me to altcoins was being young and like wanting something exciting. Investing sometimes is really boring. Investing in a dog coin can be fun. However, it's not fun when like you lose, $5,000 or something at 18 because you're an idiot and did that. So I think that's what it was. It was honestly the emotional roller coaster of investing in altcoins. Like there were times where, I think the most money I ever made in altcoins, and like this is 18, 19-year-old me, like I just finished high school, I just started university. I was working at like McDonald's at this point. So I was, not rich at all. But I remember the most money I ever made from altcoins was like $15,000. And like that was insane for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna like quit my job. I'm gonna trade full time. I am the best. Everything I touch turns to gold. Like it just like ego went through the roof. Yeah. But then I like 3 months later, lost that plus more because I just didn't understand it. And that was obviously like super difficult, especially that age, making that much money, losing that much money. The emotional roller coaster was really tough. And then that's what brought me back to kind of Bitcoin. And then that's what motivated me to then learn the fundamentals. And it was the fundamentals of Bitcoin that was my orange pilled moment, or was my Bitcoin only moment. It's what like transformed me from someone who's into multiple cryptos to just like a Bitcoin maximalist. I think once you really do understand the cause of Bitcoin, and I guess also the social and economic impacts that it actually has the potential to have, it doesn't make sense to really own anything else.
I like that answer. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as a 25-year-old entrepreneur, how would you describe Bitcoin to somebody that is, just curious about it? It like, what's your pitch of Bitcoin, like in a nutshell? If you could, kind of summarize it, like the main points in a few minutes, and then, and if this person that you're trying to orange pill is also, wondering about these other cryptos, I guess what would be the main point that you would try to keep them from, learning from your mistakes, I guess, and getting burnt on the altcoins and just sticking with Bitcoin only. So yeah, if you could go ahead and
Yeah. With, I guess if I was describing Bitcoin to someone who has no prior knowledge of it and wants to know what the hell is it, I guess the best way to describe it obviously is as a blanket definition is like obviously a digital currency, but going into that specifically is, first, it has a limited cap supply, 21 million. That's all that's ever going to exist. It's scarce. It's hard money. And what I mean by hard money is it's hard to make, or there is a process in creating new Bitcoins and distributing new Bitcoins. And obviously that's done through mining, and the way you mine is, a bunch of really smart computers have to use all of this power and energy to solve these mathematical equations and problems to then mine one. And that's what gives it scarcity. That's what gives it value compared to fiat, where literally you turn on the printer, type in how much you want to print, and it's done. Like, that's the difference between, a currency that has value and a currency that's literally backed by nothing. Debt. That's all it's backed by.
I think
Yes.
I think that's the main point that I always try to get across to people, is just the scarcity of it. What else is, I mean, everybody, we're in the US, so we, dollars. And I just always try to tell people, like, do you know the supply of dollars expanded 40% over just the past like 3 years, just out of thin air. And then if you look at, over the past 100 years, it's just crazy. Is the amount of dollars are increasing every year pretty much. Whereas with Bitcoin, it is absolutely capped at 21 million, and nobody can change that. If you ask, how do you know it can be changed? Well, it's in the code. You can go check the code. And anyway,
it's hard coded in it. And going on that as well, it's like you were saying, fiat, it increases and Bitcoin stays the same. Like, it's interesting because Bitcoin almost decreases because of how many Bitcoins are lost and not recoverable and like gone. I saw an article like 3 days ago of someone who was saying his prediction on how many Bitcoin have already been lost, and it's massive. It's millions of Bitcoins that have been lost. So there's 21 million tapped, but if you take into consideration how many have already been lost and are not ever going to be recovered, let's just like be conservative and say maybe it's like 2 million.
I think it means around there, 2 or 3.
Yeah, so let's say 2 or 3. It's now 18, 19 million. Like, that's insane. It's now even more scarce.
And how's, for people listening, how's Bitcoin lost? What does that mean that the Bitcoin is lost?
Yeah, so I guess the simplest way to explain it is your Bitcoin is stored in a digital wallet. To access this digital wallet, you need a couple of things, but like seed phrases, and you have there's a thing called a public key, which is what other people have when they want to pay you. There's a private key, but I guess in layman's terms, yeah, like your seed phrase is how you're always going to access any lost funds. And if people lose that, or if they lose just their password to a centralized wallet, you're never going to get your Bitcoin back. There's no one that can help you. There's no customer support center that you can call at Bitcoin organization. Like once it's
Yeah.
gone, it's gone.
Sounds
Which,
scary, but that's yeah, like I said, it sounds scary, but that's like part of the security of it. If
yeah,
you lost your Bitcoin and you just there's somebody to call and say, hey, I lost my Bitcoin. Can you give it back to me, or can you give me some more? No, it doesn't work like that. And yeah, and I do think a lot of the Bitcoin loss, and that was kind of back in the earlier days. I think the majority of it was back in the earlier days, back when Bitcoin
it
was
was.
like a novelty kind of,
Yeah,
and people weren't taking too much caution with their seed phrase because their Bitcoin was only worth like a few bucks. Now it's worth like
exactly,
millions, and obviously they're trying to
exactly.
figure that out. But yeah, no, that's the security of it. Like even if you have somebody has $100 million worth of Bitcoin, from 10 years ago, and you'd think if you have that much money, you should be able to find some way to get access to that. But
Mm,
that's how secure it is. Even if you have that much, no amount of money can buy your Bitcoin back. If those it's a seed phrase, essentially like your password is how I describe it. Simple term. Um, yeah, if you lose your seed phrase, then it's gone. I also
you're
heard
done.
a statistic. It's like I think you have a better chance of winning the Powerball.
Oh,
Some
tenfold.
yeah, like 10 times in a row or something like
Yeah,
that. You have a
yeah,
better chance of that than you do of guessing somebody's seed phrase. So it's
yeah.
just yeah.
Don't
So
lose your seed phrase.
definitely not awesome. Yeah. So and that's another thing that kind of separates Bitcoin from other cryptos is that Bitcoin is really the only one that doesn't have a like a CEO or anybody that can kind of
Mm,
control anything. Like even the second biggest crypto, Ethereum, is you know they're changing up the code. It seems like you know every couple
yeah,
of years almost. Um, and anyway, yeah, uh, awesome. So stick with Bitcoin, avoid the altcoins, protect your seed
absolutely.
phrase.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Bailey. Maybe we could talk about um, your businesses. How'd you get started with these businesses?
Yeah, awesome. So the first Bitcoin business that I launched was in January of this year. So that is Mr. Satoshi. So that is a premium Bitcoin apparel online store. Um, the um,
By the way,
the
I
idea
checked.
of
Sorry, I was
yeah,
looking to say I checked that out. I checked out the website, and some of the stuff on there looks, like really nice stuff. I think I just might have to
yeah.
snag a Bitcoin hat or something from there. It's really good looking
Oh,
stuff.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely do it. There is some really good stuff. Obviously, this is probably audio. There may be a video version, but if there is, I'm wearing one of our denim jackets. It's freezing here at the moment, so like this is the warmest thing ever. So these denim jackets are really good. So like Sherpa denim jackets. Anyway, shameless plug. But what was I saying? The history of Mr. Satoshi. So in October last year, I was I had just sold the investment property. I knew that I was about to put in a significant amount of money into Bitcoin. I was excited. I was nervous. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I wanted to throw up. And I was so excited. I was like, I need to like buy Bitcoin things. I want a hat. I want a mug. I want like a phone cap. I don't know. It's like I just I kind of dove deep into Bitcoin a little bit. So I wanted to buy a t-shirt. I just wanted to buy a simple t-shirt that looked nice. Went on Google, typed in Bitcoin apparel, went through maybe I don't know, a dozen different websites, spent a couple of hours browsing through, and honestly was just a little bit disappointed in what I found. I, for me, my biggest thing with clothing and apparel is like, firstly, I just want it to be comfortable. I want it to be high quality. I don't want to wear anything that has cheap materials. But then the next thing is the designs. The type of apparel that I like is minimalistic designs, things that, especially with Bitcoin, don't scream crypto or don't scream, I own Bitcoin. And I just did not find any of that from any of these stores. Either the materials were just like really cheap, or from like just overseas, or the designs I didn't like. They were just a massive, big, bold font that just said HODL or something, with the O being a Bitcoin logo. And it just wasn't what I wanted. And I was genuinely shocked that there just wasn't any premium, high quality Bitcoin apparel. So I kind of left it there, but it just stuck in my head for a while. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I guess that entrepreneurial spirit inside of me just wouldn't let it go. And it was just, for days, I was just continuously thinking about it, brainstorming ideas until I guess like the idea just took over. And I just sat down on my laptop and started, I guess, typing up kind of the blueprint of it, doing the initial research, checking out the market. And the deeper I dove into it, the more I realized it was, firstly, a good idea, and secondly, that the market needed it. So yeah, long story short, launched it in January. And it's been really well received. Obviously, it was very clear early on that a lot of other people in the Bitcoin community had the same issue that I did, or thought the same thing. The reviews have been fantastic. We've done some awesome collaborations. First one we ever did was in February. We did a limited edition tee with Orange Pill app. That was awesome. That was like our first significant milestone in the Bitcoin community. So we had a run of 50 of those and sold those in 3 weeks. And then after that, we've had a couple other things. So for conferences, we are sponsors of the BitBlock Boom conference coming up in August. We're also sponsors for Pacific Bitcoin Festival. And we've also partnered with Swan Premium. So all Swan Premium members get a special discount from us and some other exclusive stuff from us. But also people who aren't Swan Premium members can get a year for free through us as well. Trying to think who else apart from we've done so much. We've also, for Mr. Satoshi, we launched recently in the last month an ambassador program, which has been really, really good for generating sales and reaching the wider Bitcoin community. And then lastly, some other companies we're partnered with is Jolt Rewards and also the Bitcoin Co-op.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this is like essentially the first premium Bitcoin apparel store out there.
Oh, by far. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. It's in the same boat as you. Like I've ordered some Bitcoin stuff in the past, but it's, kind of cheap and just, yeah, I'm glad we have Mr. Satoshi store now.
That's it. So am I.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to go on a little shopping spree. I feel like.
I'll send you a discount code.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take you up on that. Awesome. And do you want to talk about your book now, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Sure. Yeah. So tell us about the book. It's called Orange Pilled.
Yes. So Orange Pilled. Super excited about it. It's a really, obviously I'm biased, but it's a really awesome project. What that is Orange Pilled is it's a book. It's an anthology, a collection of 250 different orange pilled stories from Bitcoiners around the world. So if anyone that's listening that doesn't know what orange pilled is, so the simplest way to describe it is orange pilling someone is like converting them to Bitcoin, getting someone on board, I guess, and making them a Bitcoin only person, Bitcoin maximalist, like we were talking about before. That's the process of orange pilling someone. So when we talk about like, what is your orange pilled moment? It's like, how did you become a Bitcoiner? How did you get involved? What was it that made you realize, Bitcoin is the only significant currency to ever exist? So that's what this book is. So 250 stories from 250 different Bitcoiners from 72 countries.
How did
It's
you collect these
really,
stories?
yeah. So I created just a real simple website, put up a questionnaire form on there. I sent out a tweet and I said, hey guys, I'm gathering some orange pilled stories for a upcoming project. Submit yours and you'll get 1,000 sats. And over the next 3 weeks, I think 538 people submitted. And I didn't say that it was for a book. I said it was for an upcoming project. I said whether that's going to be in a book or just like an online article or something like that. And the reason for that was because when I was thinking about doing this project, I was concerned about saying, hey guys, I'm writing a book that's going to be published. I want orange pill stories. And then people submitting stories that maybe aren't true, or they're trying to stretch the truth because they're like, oh, it's going to be in a book. It has to be dramatic. It has to be exciting. I really wanted to avoid that. So I made it a point not to mention it, which was a really good decision because some of the stuff that came through was super authentic. And just reading the stories over the pretty much like a month after was a really incredible experience. But yeah, so that's what this book is. Each page is one story, and it's accompanied with a hand-drawn illustration. Gives it a very intimate diary-like feel. It's going to be available on Kindle, paperback, hardcover. It is launching on July 31, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And you can pre-order it now on orangepilledbook.com. The pill part is without the E, so PILLD book. And if you pre-order before July 31, you'll go into the draw to win a share in $3,000 USD. So 3 people who pre-order before July 31 will each win $1,000 USD, which is super exciting. The Kindle edition of the book is $7. So it's not a crazy amount to firstly get an awesome book, and secondly, potentially win $1,000. You can pay in Bitcoin. You can pay with fiat. Don't pay with Bitcoin. It's so much more fun. Pay on the Lightning Network. See how quick it is. Yeah, it's super exciting. If you pre-order before July, you get a discount, so up to 30%. So
Awesome.
yeah, check it out.
I'm looking forward to it. That's a really
It's
cool
awesome,
concept
yeah.
for a book.
Yeah.
Maybe even people that read it, may gather inspiration from somebody else's story, and they could, use that to orange pill somebody in a similar situation. Or that's a really good idea for a book. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of the purpose behind it. Yeah, it definitely was the motivation behind it. I think something that is significant to point out was what kind of brought up the idea of doing it was I was a little bit frustrated with how when we talk about Bitcoin in the news or media, we only ever talk about, the price, the market trends, the graphs, like all this analytical, technical stuff, which is great and whatever else, but we just miss the most fundamental and fundamental aspect and the cornerstone of this Bitcoin revolution, which is the human experience. Like that is at its most basic level, the most significant part of what's going on here. But we never talk about it. And there's no books that highlight that. All the books that are available on Bitcoin are this like technical stuff, which is awesome and great, but we just miss the fundamental human experience of how Bitcoin has transformed everyday people's lives. And the book has, stories from mechanics, hairdressers, CEOs, influencers. Like there's just a wide variety of people from different lives, but it's interesting because they all have this common trend or common belief and cause. And it's like there's someone in the book that is a CEO, makes multiple millions of dollars a year, and there's also a hairdresser that makes minimum wage, but they both had the same human experience. They both had the same emotional transformation from Bitcoin. And I think that's like the most significant thing to come out of the book.
Awesome. Sounds like very relatable book for a lot of people. I feel like whoever reads it, you'll find at least one story in there that
Easily
relates to. So yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. Everybody, make sure to pre-order this book. It comes out July 31st. Is that right?
That's awesome. That's it.
So looking forward to it. So Bailey, one thing I like about Bitcoin podcasts versus Bitcoin books is the market is ever changing. There's so much stuff going on in the world. Maybe we could briefly spend the next few minutes just talking about some major things going on in the market right now. Not necessarily like price action or anything like that, but just some major things like. So on our end over here in the U.S., we've had like 3 of the 4 largest bank collapses in U.S. history over the past like 2 months. It's a very big catalyst, and Bitcoin has responded very well to that. Bitcoin is is up pretty nearly 50% over the past couple months. So I guess what's kind of your take on the current market right now? Are you still cautious with the market, or do you think we're kind of easing into a new bull market, or what's your take?
So I think especially with what's going on in the US, like you said, with all these banks collapsing and obviously at the moment everyone's kind of got their kind of ears to the wall about the US with their debt cap that they're currently at.
Right.
What's going to happen there? Raising it? Not like it's pretty much like no matter what you do, it's a really crappy situation, and there's not really a good way out of it. And that's the consequence of what's been going on. Like you said before, printing 40% of the circulating supply of money that's out there at the moment in the last 3 years probably will do that. When people are greedy and when this kind of stuff happens, this is the eventual consequence of that. I think for Bitcoin, I'm always bullish on Bitcoin. Bitcoin could be $10,000 right now. I'm still going to buy it every single day. I DCA, which is dollar cost average for people listening. Dollar cost average Bitcoin every single day. It's automatic. I don't even think about it. I genuinely do not even check the price that often. It honestly doesn't interest me because, like I said, if it's $10,000, I'm not going to change my position. If it's $100,000, I'm not going to change my position. We're way too early, I think, to even be considering that, I think. So yeah, for me, I'm bullish. I obviously think that Bitcoin's going to continue to do well. I think at the moment, especially with everything that's going on in the world, Bitcoin has always been a safe haven against economic downturn, pretty much globally. So I guess the easiest way is to not look at what Bitcoin's doing in regards to Bitcoin exclusively, look wider to what contributes to Bitcoin going up in price. And traditionally, there's a couple of things. First thing, economic downturn. Are we seeing that? Yes. Inflation, are we seeing that? The price of, the value of fiat currency, are we seeing that? Yes. Like all this debt stuff, all of that pretty much fuels Bitcoin rising a lot of the time. It's like gold, it's a hedge against these things. The next thing as well, besides all of that is, and the thing I'm the most bullish on, and I wish more people would take the time to go research and learn more about, because if you had a really comprehensive understanding of this, you would be selling everything you own to buy Bitcoin, because the halving is happening in less than a year.
Right.
For people listening that are new to Bitcoin, the very basic explanation of the Bitcoin halving is it is a significant event that is coded into Bitcoin itself. So every 210,000 blocks, or on average every 4 years, a halving event occurs, which is when the reward size for Bitcoin miners is cut by 50%. So we've had a few of them. We're about to have another one, which is going to cut the current reward size, which is 6.25, in half. And what that means is there's less rewards for miners, which historically over the past halving events, if you look at the price graphs of Bitcoin and what's happened, pretty much every other Bitcoin halving is the price skyrockets. So my biggest thing at the moment, no matter what's happening with Bitcoin right now, I'm looking I guess my short-term view is the next 12 months prior to the halving. My biggest focus is to stack as many sats as I can before then, because I know what has happened previously and the likelihood of history repeating itself, I'm going to bet for. So yeah, I think that's something that people should really look into and educate themselves on. And I think once you get like a really deep understanding of it, you'd be extremely bullish on Bitcoin as well.
Definitely. Yeah. It's basic supply and demand. If you think about it, I mean, you think you got this thing with a absolutely cap supply.
Yeah.
And so right now, to anyone who doesn't know, there's the cap of 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be created. Now, right now, there's only, I think it's a little over 19 million of those 21 million in circulation. And as Bailey was saying, every 4 years there's this halving where the output is cut in half every 4 years. So, the very last piece of a Bitcoin won't be mined until like, 2140 or something like that. But at that point, after that many halvings, it'll be, I think the block reward is like 1 Satoshi, which is 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. Yeah. Right now, I think it's around 900 Bitcoin per day is an easy way to think about it. So, right now, about 19 million roughly Bitcoin out in circulation right now. That number is increasing by roughly 900 every day. After the halving 2024, it'll be cut in half to, now you're only going to be having 450 Bitcoin mined per day. So if you think about it, you've got like that supply shock, but as long as you have that increasing demand, because the adoption of Bitcoin is growing right on pace like the internet did in 1990. So if you have a exponentially growing demand and users, and you have this the supply all of a sudden get cut in half, yeah, it does lead to these kind of parabolic runs afterwards. So anyway, yeah, that's awesome. Glad you threw the halving in there, because that is a big positive catalyst coming up here the next year or so. But anyway, all right, Bailey, maybe we could go ahead and start knocking out some of these Twitter questions.
Yeah, hit me. There were some good ones. I was reading through them. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah,
It's so
everyone
hard to
has such
choose
questions. I
sometimes.
wanted to answer all of them. I felt so bad when I was like, oh, like there were probably like 60 or 70, but I was like, I wish I could like sit down for 3 hours and just answer every single one.
Yeah, there's some my followers are very engaged, and a lot of them have some really good questions.
Very smart. I hope I
So
answer them well.
did you is there any that you wanted to start with, or
I can't think of any off the top
sure,
of my
okay,
head.
yeah. Well, I have a
Hit
print them
me.
out right here, so we can just go down the list.
Awesome.
Some of them we have already kind of touched on, so I may just cut to the point and summarize some of them. This is a good one. And I'm not sure if you can share this because it like has yet to be released, but you maybe could give a teaser or something like that. This comes from Adam Smith, uh, Twit. What is your favorite story? What's your favorite orange pill story in your new book?
Favorite one. It's literally the toughest thing to say. Like there were 538 different stories. One of the hardest things for doing this book was honestly breaking that down to 250. There are honestly some amazing stories that aren't in the book, which obviously if the book does well, there will definitely be a second, but I guess it was important to make sure it's not overly long. But yeah, so many incredible stories. One that is my favorite, there's a couple. One that is my favorite because it's kind of funny is there's this guy who said he had no interest in Bitcoin at all, but his dad, who obviously he probably didn't have the best relationship with, his dad would always complain when he saw Bitcoin on the news and got so angry about it being a Ponzi scheme and a scam that the son went out of his way to learn about Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, and boast to his dad about Bitcoin, literally for the sole purpose of annoying his dad who hated Bitcoin. And he says that initially he did it for that reason, but naturally it grew into him actually realizing that Bitcoin is great. And now he's like a Bitcoin maxi. That's a really funny one. There's a couple of, it's so funny. There's a couple of other ones that are like a little bit more heartfelt, like for people who literally lost everything financially, houses, livelihoods, jobs, and Bitcoin was a safe haven for that. A really significant reoccurring story that happened a lot throughout these 540 or whatever stories was the impacts of the pandemic on people and how Bitcoin was a massive safe haven for them. There are I could have made a book just on stories from that, genuinely. So there are like some in there. I'm trying to think how many there are. There's a significant amount that relate to the pandemic and about how people lost their jobs, they were stuck inside, they were defaulting on loans and mortgages and whatever else. And they were so uncertain on the economy and the government that naturally, they were attracted to Bitcoin, and that's how they had their orange pilled moments. So there's some really good stuff like that. There's so many good stories. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, definitely. That was good. That's hilarious about the guy that
So
got some
funny.
Bitcoin just to get back at his dad, and
Yeah.
paid off well for him, I'm sure. Okay, this is a good one. This comes from Michael Eichmann. Did orange pilling someone ever backfire on you, or like have people blamed you or unfriended you because of financial losses associated with Bitcoin? So it's a good question. If you know Bitcoin, or they're probably always talking about it, always trying to get you to get some. It is very volatile, though. We've had this, for the past year or so, Bitcoin is, came from upwards of 60,000 to now it's in the 20,000. So if you did somebody took your advice and bought Bitcoin at 60,000. Now they're like down 50 plus percent. That's probably not the best feeling. But yeah, what's your answer to that? Have you experienced that?
Not for Bitcoin in particular, and there's a reason for it. Before I was like a Bitcoin maxi, like I said, I was investing in altcoins, but I also just was investing in normal stocks. So here in Australia, so the ASX, I was investing in some stocks here, and I dove really deep into that, especially with kind of like my friendship group and some of my colleagues as well that I was working with when I was a mortgage broker. Obviously, kind of like being in finance and stuff, it was a really interesting topic for all of us. Anyway, there was this IPO of this company that was coming up that I was super excited about, and a previous company in the same industry went from $10 to like $115 a share in like the matter of a few months, and some people made some like crazy money on that. And so this company was about to IPO, and I was like, it's going to do the exact same thing. Looked at their documents that they had. I registered for the IPO. I told a couple of my colleagues and my manager about it, and like really got them on board. And I was like, let's go crazy, let's invest. And I put in 15,000, just under $15,000, and I'm pretty sure two of my friends and also my manager also put in about $10,000 each. And pretty much as soon as it IPO'd, it just like tanked, not instantly, but like over the course of maybe a month, it went down like 35%. And we held on for a little bit, and I think we all ended up selling at like a 50 to 60% loss. And that was a fun time. But I think obviously no one was mad at me. It wasn't like I was pressuring anyone. We all did our research. We all looked at the documents. It was just I was the first one to mention it, but I felt so bad. It was a horrible experience, not just losing money, but other people losing money because I said this was a cool idea. So after that, I was always so hesitant to like give significant financial advice like that. When talking to people about Bitcoin, I focus on what it can do for them personally, not what it can do for them in terms of making them rich quick. I never tell people that. It has the potential to do that, and it has done that for so many people, but I don't focus on that when I'm pitching it. Like I recently had lunch with a good mate of mine who I've been trying to orange pill for a while now, and I've tried a few different methods. Like he's a pretty smart guy, so I tried to use like really technical theories, tried to use like political stuff, tried to use economic stuff, social. Nothing really hit him too hard. And then it was like 3 weeks ago, I was having lunch with him, and I decided to take a different approach. And I said, I just want to show you how fast this is, dude. I just want to show you. I was like, I don't care if you don't invest in it. Can I just show you what I'm talking about here? And he was hesitant, like, all right, whatever. I was like, grab your phone, download this app. He's like, all right, download Wallet of Satoshi. I'm quickly going through it. And I was like, just check this out. Click here. See that QR code? He's like, yep. I grab my phone. I scan it. I'm like showing him. I'm like, now watch this. Send. And it's like, boom, 20,000 sats. And like, he didn't go, oh my God, but like you could just see like a spark ignite in his eyes. Like, oh, that was kind of impressive. And then I dove in a bit deeper with that. I was like, that's like just what you can do. This thing can do millions of transactions a second, and then connected a real world experience and example with the theoretical stuff that I know he cares about and is interesting to him. So I think the key thing when orange pilling people is find out what theoretically ticks for them, but then pair that with like a real world experience, something tangible that they can connect with that. So going back to the question, I haven't had any awkward or bad situations with telling someone to buy Bitcoin? Because I learned from my lesson with that stock.
Gotcha. Yeah. And if you ever do try to, just for anybody, I think I've learned the hard way as well, because I think when I first got into Bitcoin, I think I was a little bit too pushy on it, a little bit too bullish, I guess, and in terms of, trying to get other people to buy it. And yeah, and all the way up on that last run. And I mean, yeah, nobody's like mad at me or anything, because I do try to make sure I'm like, this is an investment to like never sell, like literally to buy this and hold this like forever. Like, don't even worry about the price at all. But yeah, I get the question. And yeah, it's a good question. All right. This one comes from, some of these usernames are kind of hard to pronounce. But it's EL Alex BTC. This question is, what could we do to start in Bitcoin to take the first step and encourage ourselves to open a business? And then I'm going to piggyback this with another question that somewhere comes from Blue Mozzie. It's basically like, you've launched several Bitcoin businesses. What motivates you, and how do you stay consistent?
Yeah, that's awesome. Really two amazing questions. And this is something I love talking about. Besides Bitcoin, business, finance, entrepreneur stuff is my passion, my most significant aspect of my life. So being able to pair both Bitcoin and like entrepreneur stuff is my favorite thing to talk about and do. So the first question was how to start a Bitcoin business, and then the next one was,
I guess, like a piece of advice on getting into the Bitcoin space and starting a business.
So I guess like this is true for any business, but tiering it or changing it a little bit so it suits Bitcoin business is the most important thing, is to create something that Bitcoiners want. That's the most significant thing. Solve a problem. It's especially like, it's true in any business, honestly, but with Bitcoiners especially, it is true. Bitcoiners, we have the ethos of don't trust, verify. If you don't have a good product that isn't solving something, no one's going to really bat an eye to it. So I think that's like the fundamental thing. I think finding a niche is also significant. Don't go too broad. A lot of stuff that I see with Bitcoin businesses, a lot with like Bitcoin apparel businesses, but also just any real Bitcoin business is they're super broad. Then they don't find a niche and they don't hone in on that. There's the saying of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And it's so true when it comes to this stuff. Like there will be just, this is just pretend. This isn't any specific business. I'm just kind of making this up, but a Bitcoin apparel business that, sells t-shirts and hoodies and stuff, but then also sells mugs, also sells, phone cases, and then also sells books, and also sells, I don't know, think of any like extra thing that isn't related to it or specifically. It's like if you have 30 different categories, it can work sometimes, but like you're not Amazon. If you want to really find an entry point in the market, the quickest and easiest way to do that as a first-time business is to find a niche, hone in on that, become an expert in that niche, and really focus on that. Like when I first started Mr. Satoshi, I didn't do this. I obviously had the fundamentals of premium Bitcoin apparel, but then like you just get so excited. You're like, what else can I do? What else can I add? And like at the start, we added mugs, artwork, phone cases, like stuff, chargers, like a branded wireless charger. Like it was kind of silly because it was way too broad. It's like people are coming here because you're an apparel company, but you're selling a phone charger. It just didn't make sense. And all that stuff is gone now because it honestly did more damage than benefiting the business. So find a niche, massive thing. Another thing that I really love to tell business owners is to build like a Roman. So what that means is, obviously you think about Rome. When they built Rome, they didn't use cheap materials. You know, they used marble from different countries that they imported. They used the best materials. They delicately crafted all of these significant buildings and everything else in Rome. And the reason they did that is because they wanted Rome to be a legacy. They wanted Rome to last all of human history, and it's still standing. And there's, you know, you can still go see all of these awesome buildings and craftsmanship that's been done. And I think that's a significant thing. There are so many business owners, especially in crypto and Bitcoin, that want to create a business that will make them money really quick. I get asked that all the time. Like, hey, like, do you have any cool business ideas where I can make money? Like, will this make me a lot of money fast? Probably not. Like, if you're already thinking that, it's not going to work. Like, you need to build something that will last. Build something that you want to create a legacy for, that will be here in 10 years time. If you don't think your business is going to be relevant in 10 years, don't make it, because it's counter productive and it will do more harm than good. There's that kind of popular quote that Rome wasn't built in a day, but every day they were laying bricks. And I think that's like a significant thing as well. If you're starting a business, don't think you need to have the perfect business structure ready to go straight away. Just launch it with what you have and learn on the way, figure it out on the way. Like I said, when I launched Mr. Satoshi, it was crap. Like, our website was terrible. Everyone complained about the website. You probably haven't seen it. There's a screenshot on the Mr. Satoshi Twitter about a week ago of the old website. It was horrible. Everyone complained about it. Slow as hell. And like I said, we had all those other products as well. But if I had waited, firstly, I would have like lost so much time in the market, and I wouldn't have realized the website was crap. I wouldn't have realized that like it was a bad idea to sell phone cases with t-shirts. The reason I learned that is because I did launch it and I just figured this out on the way. Another point, just to kind of keep going with that, is and this kind of ties into the second question, which was what kind of motivates me or keeps me going with all the Bitcoin stuff that I do. And the biggest thing is, and what I've learned, is to never be motivated or never focus on motivation. Never have motivation as the core reason why you do something, because it will always bite you in the butt afterwards. Like, it's always not going to work out if you only solely rely on motivation to do something. Why? Because motivation is a feeling based on external factors. Like, you can't depend on motivation, because when you aren't motivated, what is going to get you up to work that day? What's going to motivate you or drive you to continue working on your business? Like, starting businesses is really fun, and at the start you're super motivated, but then it gets really hard. You get a complaint, or someone tells you your website's crap, or there's an issue with your supplier, or you've got 40 different emails. Like, there are times when you don't want to work, and if you're solely relying on motivation, you're going to quickly fall behind and fail. So don't rely on motivation, rely and really focus on building self-discipline. It's the most significant thing I've learned in the last 3 years is self-discipline. It was one of the toughest things, I think, for me personally to adapt and put in practice in my life. a good way to kind of define self-discipline is doing what you have to do, not because you want to do it, but because it's necessary. And I think that's a super important thing. And then above all else, I guess, do what you love. It's so cliche, but it's like super true. If you don't love your work, you're gonna resent it. You're gonna hate it. You're not gonna enjoy doing it. Steve Jobs was the one who said the only way to do great work is to do what you love. So yeah, they're my two answers. I think those answered it.
Yeah, I think that covered it. Good answers.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, got a few more. Let's see. I like this one. This comes from at KillerFlex3. What is your best approach to orange pilling a boomer, old person?
Boomer. I'm trying to think of the boomers I've tried to orange pill.
Yeah. It's tough because I do feel like that age range is a harder. Is probably the hardest to orange pill because they are very, like to hold things in their hand. I think it's harder for them to understand the digital things. That obviously it's just because of when they were born. Nothing. About their intelligence or anything. It's just a totally different era. But yeah, I do think most the older generation probably is. It seems like younger generation, people our age, people in their kind of 30s, 40s are more have the best grasp on Bitcoin and the significance of it, whereas people older kind of maybe they want to stick with their gold or their stocks or whatever. But
yeah.
I think you have a good strategy for that.
Yeah, look, it's like I don't have a crash course specifically for boomers, but I guess what it is any group of person that you're wanting to orange pill is to focus on what makes sense to them. What do they know? What do they understand? And relate Bitcoin back to that. So if a boomer understands gold and values gold because that's what they've grown up with, it's so easy to relate Bitcoin to gold and make that comparison. So I think that's firstly like the key thing to bring it back to something that they understand and that they're comfortable with, because already you're kind of bringing down a wall by doing that. Relate it to their interests. Besides like what they know, what are they interested in? Do they work in finance? Are they a teacher? Are they a politician? Like, what is it that they do or are interested in, and how can Bitcoin positively impact that? They're a small business owner that owns a hairdresser salon and their margins are so small because Visa, MasterCard, and Amex are taking a percentage of all their sales. Then also on top of that, their Shopify store is taking a percentage. The machine itself is taking a percentage of all their sales. At the end of the day, they're making like a 15 to 20% GP on the work that they're doing. Cool. Bitcoin Lightning. There are no fees. It is quick as hell. It will be instant. You can buy a terminal, put it in there. It's decentralized, it's private, it's secure. There are no chargebacks. You're never going to get a refund, like a unworthy refund. You're never going to get scammed because it's literally impossible. So relate it to something that a solution to something specific in their life. And I think if you follow that, and if you do it well, any rational person is going to find interest in it. I never talk about the price of like Bitcoin when I'm orange pilling someone. I never say buy it because it's $20,000, $30,000 now. It was 60. So if it gets there, you're going to double your money. Like I don't do that because it's for me, I just feel like it's the wrong motivator. It's not the reason I I am a Bitcoin maxi. I'd say it's a reason why most Bitcoin or any Bitcoin maxi is not interested in that. We're interested in the fundamentals and the way that Bitcoin can actually impact the world. And I think if someone is buying Bitcoin or getting interested in Bitcoin because they think they're going to get rich quick or even just rich at all, you may, and like obviously as Bitcoin goes up, that's going to be that's what's going to happen. But if that's your reason, that's not enough to get you through long-term holding of Bitcoin, because you're going to see Bitcoin drop 40, 30%, and then it's going to rise, and then it's going to drop again another 40, and you're going to go on this roller coaster. And because your reason for owning Bitcoin is tied to its price, your emotion is going to be tied to the price as well, and the way that it fluctuates, which just isn't, it's just not an ideal way. So yeah, tie it back to a real world solution for that person.
Yeah, you have to approach everybody with a different angle, because everybody has their own unique circumstances.
That's it.
Okay. This one, as I'm looking at these, some of these we already did really hit on, so maybe we could just very briefly touch on these. But this one comes from at really bars. What makes Satoshi Store stand out from other companies? From what I've gathered so far, it really is like the first premium Bitcoin apparel. Most other Bitcoin apparel stores it's mostly cheap stuff, stuff that's not comfortable, doesn't even really look all that good. Stuff from Mr. Satoshi is like, it's like the Louis Vuitton of Bitcoin apparel almost, I would say, or like the Lululemon of Bitcoin apparel.
Yeah, but it's affordable, and that's absolutely. Look, there are so many things about Mr. Satoshi that make it stand out from any other Bitcoin apparel company in the industry. Firstly, high quality materials. It's seriously the most fundamental aspect of Mr. Satoshi as a brand. And with Bitcoiners, like I said before, don't trust, verify. That's such a massive thing, because when you buy our apparel, it's super clear instantly the quality of the materials. And, Mr. Satoshi has been around since January 4th, and there has not been one single refund, one single return. There's not been one single exchange, not one complaint. There's been absolutely nothing, which is fantastic. Going on to that, like the designs as well. They're premium, professionally made designs. It's not something that's just made on, I don't know, paint is the only thing. No one uses paint, but whatever the equivalent of paint is now, like they're made well. The embroidered designs are awesome. They take a while to like come up with the ideas and make sure that they look right and that they look really cool. Like our Satoshi Social Club stuff is our most popular apparel. And the embroidered stuff on that is insane. And the quality of the hoodies and sweatshirts and t-shirts for both our collector's edition and our Satoshi Social Club edition are even higher quality than just our standard stuff. So the hoodies for those collections are insane. They're expensive for us to buy, and they have a bit of a higher price tag than just the normal stuff, but the quality of it is ridiculous. It is like that Louis Vuitton quality kind of stuff. Like it's very premium for sure. But just like even our standard stuff is, 100% cotton, really good stuff, super comfortable, well made. Everything's made and shipped from the US, which is important. There's free worldwide shipping. I think the biggest thing that separates Mr. Satoshi, besides all of that, to every other competitor are our rewards. There's literally no Bitcoin apparel company that has the level of rewards that we have. So this is a core focus of Mr. Satoshi's.
What is the reward program?
Yeah. So we partnered with Jolts Rewards. Shout out to them. They are incredible. They're at the Bitcoin conference at the moment in Miami. So they're doing some really awesome stuff there. But yeah, so we partnered with Jolts to offer up to 100,000 instant sats back on every single order above $29, which is pretty much is everything. And it's a tiered system. So $29 to $49 gets you 10,000 sats, 49 to whatever gets you 25,000, and it gradually increases to about 100,000 sats. And when you check out and you get to the thank you confirmation page, a pop-up comes up that says, congratulations, you've earned some sats back. Click on it. And it takes you to a Jolts website, which is Mr. Satoshi branded, and it has a QR code. Scan the QR code and you get your sats back instantly back into your private Lightning wallet. On top of that, we have our monthly 1.5 million sats giveaway. So every single month we give away 1.5 million sats, completely free to enter. 15 people win. The top prize is 1 million sats, 200. Then second place is 250,000. And we've been doing that since January. That's really, really fun. So we've given out almost 10 million plus sats just from that. Next thing is our Sats Club. So we have another Sats reward. So when you join Sats Club, again, it's free to. You are able to refer friends with a special unique link for you. You get $10, they get $10. And then also every time you make an order on Mr. Satoshi, you get SAT points, which is about 5% back in store credit. And then the last rewards program we have is with the Bitcoin4Everybody mobile app. So you can jump on there. Firstly, it's an incredible app. So definitely just download it anyway. You can buy gift cards for different Bitcoin and non-Bitcoin businesses, and you'll get sats back depending on what the business allows. Mr. Satoshi is the highest sats back in the Bitcoin category, and obviously for the Bitcoin apparel category there as well. So you'll get 21% sats back if you buy through the app, which is also instant. So yeah, that's probably the most significant thing that makes Mrs. Satoshi stand out from all other apparel companies. Premium, high quality, professionally made, amazing customer service, 24/7 customer chat, and we literally have the best rewards in the industry.
And I can't think of a reason to order any Bitcoin apparel from anywhere else other than Mr. Satoshi. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, this question comes from Nikolay Cholakov. Sorry, I'm pronouncing these names wrong. I'm sorry. How do you imagine the world if hyper-Bitcoinization happens?
Awesome. Also, shout out to Nick. Nick has been a long-term follower of mine, very supportive. So shout out, Nick. Great question. Tough question. What was it? So how do you imagine
if we get hyper-Bitcoinization, you know, we're on a Bitcoin standard, essentially, what will the world look like?
It's such a tough question, because it's like, how do you explain something that has never happened? How do you explain like quantum computing? Like, we've never had that. We have no idea the effects that something like that would have. We can theorize, but genuinely it's impossible to really know what a hyper Bitcoinization world looks like. We can make some theories, and like a really good reference point for people that want to read a book is to read the Bitcoin Standard. Incredible book. Grab it. It's really good for there's a section on this. I guess like fundamentally, if I was like theorizing the like core aspects of what that world would look like, is we would have a decentralization of power. That's the first thing. You know, governments own the distribution of wealth and all of that. So if that was no longer something, you can't control it. You can't control Bitcoin, which is, you know, a massive thing. So the first thing we'd see is like decentralization of power. We'd obviously see a Bitcoin global standard. The economy would move to a more digital economy, I'd say. We definitely see that. We would see an increase in privacy as well, in security. Like for finances, like your finances would be more private and secure because that's just what Bitcoin is. And then also I think there'd be a massive shift in wealth distribution as well. You got to think of all these Bitcoiners who you have bought in 2013 when people said they were stupid and just, it wasn't going to go anywhere. And these like tech guys or these crypto guys that, or, cypherpunks that understood the fundamentals really early on and held the wealth distribution. If Bitcoin goes on a global standard, will definitely shift. And, these people at the moment who are currently rich that are only rich because they understand fiat and how to manipulate that and haven't bought Bitcoin. If we go into a Bitcoin standard, the distribution of wealth will tip the other way, which is really interesting. I think that's all I can think for how that would work. I guess the way that I think of it is just think of the core aspects of Bitcoin: decentralized, private, secure, well, pseudo-private, secure, deflationary. Think of those core aspects and then find examples of what that would look like if it was the main currency.
Awesome. Yeah, good answer. Okay, I think I have time for a couple more. You have time for a couple more? Or,
yeah, I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
It's good fun. I'm having a blast.
No, I know I could do this all day. I think I have time for a couple more. I do got to go into a dinner here soon. But this question comes from Janko, and I may paraphrase a little bit, but from you got this book, all these stories of orange pill stories. How would, I guess, pulling from that, what story could best be related to a family member or friend that just staunchly refuses to see Bitcoin as anything other than a Ponzi scheme and refuses to see the fraud inherent in the current banking system?
Yeah. It's a great question. Trying to think of a story in there. There are so many. Interestingly,
I guess you don't have to necessarily, it can be your own advice on that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a story from your book.
I do have an answer for it, which does relate to the book. And what you'll find if you do buy the Orange Pilled book is that specifically for like what this person is asking about, orange pilling someone that could be best relayed to someone who thinks Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, is that a lot of the stories in Orange Pilled that relate to it being a Ponzi scheme are from the people who thought it was a Ponzi scheme and changed their mind. So there are a bunch of stories in the book that are literally first-hand accounts of people that have been in that position of thinking Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, not wanting to use it, and then having some sort of significant event or transformation which switched that. Obviously, I don't want to tell you all the things that people have said in there because like that's what you want to read the book for, but there are tons of stories that do have that, and it's powerful that it comes from that person firsthand. It's not somebody saying, I orange pilled my friend, this is what I told him, he believed this, now he doesn't believe that. That's nice, but this is first hand accounts from the people who literally had that belief. There's this really funny one of it actually comes from Joe Hall from Cointelegraph. He submitted it for the book, but he also he also mentioned it on an interview that I did with him a couple of weeks ago. So I'm okay with saying this one because it's already public. It's also in the book, but it's Joe was saying how he first got into Bitcoin because he thought he first avoided Bitcoin because he thought it was a Ponzi scheme, and the only reason he ever bought Bitcoin was because he wanted to buy illicit things from the dark web. So, isn't a great motivator. I do not suggest it. It's not really a thing anymore, but back in 2011, 2013, this was kind of a thing. And that's how Joe first got into Bitcoin. But even when he was buying Bitcoin for this reason, he still thought it was a Ponzi scheme. And it wasn't until years later that that transformed for him. And you can read more of that in the book. Another awesome story is trying to think. Like Brian DeMint, I chatted to him about a month ago, and he had the same. He had a very similar transformation with Bitcoin, where he thought it was a Ponzi scheme. In his book, Bitcoin Evangelism, also buy that, read it, fantastic book. He talks about and in our interview, he was mentioning how he was proactively evangelizing against Bitcoin to his friends. Like his sole mission was getting his friends to not buy Bitcoin and literally telling them why it's a Ponzi scheme and why it's a scam. Like he went out of his way to do this. And then again, he had a transformation. He realized the fundamentals and it switched for him. So there are tons of these stories in the book, but some really good ones, if you want to listen to them before the book is released, is to jump on my YouTube channel. It's Bailey Jakob with a K. And there are 2 interviews on there, one with Joe, one with Brian. Within the first 10 minutes, they both tell their orange pill story, and they both talk about how they thought it was a Ponzi scheme. So go check those out. Even if you just listen to the first 10 minutes, they're really good. But also there are a ton of these in the book.
Awesome. Another shout out to Brian DeMint. He was my first
He's
guest.
Awesome.
He's a great guy. He's an awesome guy. All right, I'll end it on this question.
Awesome.
So we've talked so much about orange pilling, this and that. This question comes from at RimsJack1. Who orange pilled you? Was it a friend, a book? Was it Michael Saylor? Was it Seyfedin?
It wasn't anything, dramatic. I wish I had a really dramatic story. Unfortunately, I don't. There was no one who orange pilled me. It was really a journey of self-discovery. Like the first time I ever heard about Bitcoin was when I was a teenager, and some friends at school mentioned it, but I wouldn't class that as like who orange pilled me. That was the first time I ever heard about Bitcoin as an idea. But my journey of being orange pilled, it's a whole chapter in the book, by the way. There's a whole chapter called My Orange Pill Story, where I go through all of this in great detail. But it was a journey of self-discovery. It was self-education. It was trial and error. It was understanding the fundamentals. It was getting burnt by altcoins. It was like all of these different factors contributed to, over the course of 4 years, I would say, to where I got to a stage that I felt like I was officially orange pilled, or officially was a Bitcoin maxi, or had that mentality. Awesome.
Well, Bailey, I really enjoyed having you on as a guest. Is there any final comments, or where should people find you? Obviously, check out the Mr. Satoshi store, pre-order the orange pilled book. What's any closing comments there?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun interview podcast. Some of the questions were incredible. The questions from the viewers, just everyone listening, if you asked a question, well done. They were tough. And even there are some that weren't asked, and I'm almost glad because I saw some of them and I was like, I have no idea. This is like so. But anyway, really great questions. In closing, follow me on Twitter. So it's Bailey Jakob1, Jacob with a K. And then Mr. Satoshi on Twitter is Mr. Satoshi Store. I also have a Bitcoin blog news website called BitBuy, where I post daily articles. I literally, right after this, have to finish up one that I haven't submitted yet. So that's about to go up in the next hour. But yeah, that's bitbyte.news on Twitter. And then for my book, orangepilledbook.com. Pilled is PILLD. Jump on there, pre-order, $7, or you can buy the paperback for like $18. Go into the draw to win $1,000. Pay with Bitcoin. And I think that's it. With Mr. Satoshi, we have something launching at the end of this month, which is very exciting. There's not much I can say on it.
Okay.
I will say it is to do with rewards. It's trying to think what I can say without giving it away, but it's massive. It's something not to miss. It'll be launched at the end of this month. It's literally taking our reward system to an unprecedented level. It's ridiculous. Stay tuned. It's going to be really exciting. It is partnering with Jolt Rewards, so you know it's going to be good because they're the ones with the technology behind it. So yeah, that's what I got.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you so much and have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.